The massive screen in Earth's United Defense Command Center showed the approaching alien ships. They glowed like stars against the black of space, their hulls gleaming with a strange blue metal unknown to human science. Captain James Walker stood straight, his gray uniform pressed perfectly, trying to hide his racing heart as humanity prepared for its first official contact with an alien civilization. "They're hailing us," said Tom, the communications officer. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic display. "Playing it on the main screen, sir." The alien that appeared looked almost human-like, except for its pale blue skin and large, completely black eyes. It wore what seemed to be a military uniform decorated with strange symbols. "Greetings, beings of Earth." The alien spoke in perfect English, their words translated by their advanced systems. "I am High Commander Rax of the Dominion. We have been watching your civilization's development with great interest." Walker noticed the slight pause, the tiny smile that didn't seem friendly at all. "Welcome, High Commander. I am Captain James Walker of the Earth Defense Force. We are honored to make first contact with your civilization." The alien's smile grew wider, showing teeth that looked too sharp. "Yes, well, we've been quite entertained by watching your attempts at space travel. Those vessels you call ships." Rax gestured to someone off-screen, and suddenly images of Earth's best warships appeared. "Tell me, Captain Walker, do your people actually feel safe in these metal boxes?" Laughter could be heard from other aliens off-screen. "They look like they would fall apart if hit by a small asteroid." Walker felt his face grow hot, but kept his voice steady. "Our ships are built to be reliable and effective, High Commander. They have served us well in exploring our solar system." "Oh, how charming," Rax said, not even trying to hide his mockery now. "You've explored your own solar system, like children playing in a backyard pond." More laughter followed. The alien commander pressed something on his control panel, and a hologram appeared in Earth's command center. It showed one of the Dominion ships up close. It was beautiful and terrifying. Sleek curves of that strange blue metal, wrapped in what looked like living energy. "This, primitive ones, is what a real warship looks like. Our smallest scout vessel could destroy your entire fleet without even activating its main weapons." Rax's voice dripped with contempt. "Those primitive engines you use. Chemical rockets. How quaint. We mastered gravitational manipulation before your species invented the wheel." Walker watched as his crew members' faces fell, saw their pride turning to shame. But he noticed something else too, something in the way the alien ships moved. He kept his face neutral, but his mind was racing, analyzing. "Your technology is indeed impressive, High Commander," Walker said carefully. "We hope we can learn from your advanced civilization." But even as he spoke these humble words, he was sending silent messages through his neural link to Earth's defense analysts. Asterisk look at their hull structure. All energy shields, minimal physical armor. They're overconfident asterisk. "Oh, you will learn," Rax said, his sharp smile growing even wider. "The Dominion has decided to take your species under our protection. You clearly need guidance to avoid destroying yourselves with your primitive technology." Walker felt his jaw tighten, but maintained his diplomatic smile. "We appreciate your offer, High Commander. We will need to discuss this with Earth's full government, of course." Of course. Take all the time you need to realize you have no choice." The alien commander gave one final laugh. "We will return in 3 of your Earth days for your answer. Try not to blow yourselves up with those dangerous chemical rockets before then." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Walker turned to his crew, seeing the anger and humiliation on their faces, but he also saw determination. "Send everything we observed to research and development," he ordered. "Every detail about their ships, their shields, their attitude. They think they know everything about us." He allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Let's show them how dangerous primitive humans can be." The crew snapped into action, their shame turning to purpose. In trying to humiliate humanity, the Dominion had made their first mistake. They had shown their greatest weakness, their arrogance, and humanity was about to make them regret it. The underground research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with activity. Screens covered every wall, showing detailed scans of the Dominion ships taken during their first contact. Captain Walker stood next to Dr. Anna Miller, Earth's leading expert in spacecraft design, as she pointed excitedly at the holographic display. "Look at this, Captain," she said, zooming in on a section of the alien vessel. "Their entire defense system relies on energy shields. The actual hull is barely thicker than aluminum foil." Her eyes sparkled with the thrill of discovery. Walker leaned closer, studying the technical readouts. They never needed physical armor because no one could get past their shields. Exactly. Dr. Miller brought up comparison images of Earth's ships. Our vessels might look primitive to them, but we built them to survive micrometeorite impacts, solar radiation, and extreme temperature changes. We couldn't rely on fancy energy shields, so we made them tough. In another corner of the lab, technicians were running simulations. The main screen showed a Dominion ship's shield deflecting various types of weapons. Walker watched as lasers, plasma bolts, and conventional missiles bounced harmlessly off the blue energy field. "Their shields are incredibly advanced," said Mark, the head weapons analyst. "But look what happens when we try something they might consider too primitive to defend against." He typed in new commands, and the simulation changed. The new simulation showed a simple kinetic projectile, essentially a large metal rod, accelerated to extreme speeds. When it hit the shield, something unexpected happened. Instead of bouncing off, it created a disturbance in the energy field. "They designed their shields to handle energy weapons," Mark explained, grinning. "But good old-fashioned physical impact. That creates waves in their shield frequency. Hit it hard enough, fast enough, and..." He increased the speed in the simulation. The rod struck the shield at near-light speed, causing the energy field to ripple violently before collapsing completely. Walker smiled for the first time since the aliens' visit. They're so focused on advanced technology, they forgot the basics of physics. "There's more," Dr. Miller added, pulling up new data. "Those beautiful blue hulls they're so proud of. They're designed to channel energy weapons, but without their shields." She ran another simulation showing what would happen if a physical projectile hit the exposed hull. The result was devastating. "Like hitting a tin can with a bullet," Walker said quietly. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Engineers modified existing railgun designs, scaling them up to unprecedented sizes. Others worked on a new type of projectile, a dense core of tungsten surrounded by a specially designed outer layer that would fragment on impact, causing maximum damage to the unshielded hull. "We'll need to hit them hard and fast," Walker said, reviewing the battle plans. "Once they realize their shields aren't invincible, they'll adapt." Dr. Miller nodded, but her expression was confident. "That's another advantage we have. Look at these scans of their ship designs." She showed him more technical data. "Their ships are all identical. Perfect, standardized. They haven't had to adapt or improve in centuries. But us, we're constantly changing, improving, learning. Because we had to," Walker realized. "Every problem we faced in space made us stronger." Exactly. Their mockery of our primitive ships might be the biggest mistake they've ever made. Dr. Miller's eyes were fierce with pride. They never asked why we built our ships this way. They never wondered what challenges we had to overcome. Walker stood up, looking at the massive assembly area where Earth's primitive ships were being modified with the new weapons. "How long until we're ready?" 48 hours, Dr. Miller replied, just in time for their return. "Good." Walker watched as workers installed the massive railguns on Earth's flagship. "Let's show them that sometimes the old ways are the best ways." As he left the facility, Walker thought about High Commander Rax's mocking smile. Soon, very soon, that smile would disappear. The Dominion thought they were dealing with primitive savages. They were about to learn that underestimating humanity was a deadly mistake. High Commander Rax's face filled the main screen of Earth's Defense Command once again. 3 days had passed, and his smile was even more unpleasant than before. Behind him, the massive Dominion fleet hung in space like a gathering storm. "Well, Captain Walker," Rax said, "has your primitive species realized the wisdom of accepting our protection?" Walker stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back. The last 3 days of preparation had given him confidence, but he kept his face carefully neutral. "We appreciate your offer, High Commander. However, Earth chooses to remain independent." The alien's black eyes narrowed. "Perhaps a demonstration will help you understand your situation better." Rax pressed something on his control panel. "Observe." On another screen, a civilian colony ship appeared. The Rising Hope was returning from Mars, carrying 300 settlers. Walker's hands tightened into fists behind his back, but he forced himself to remain still. "Such an interesting vessel," Rax said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Using basic ion engines, minimal shielding. Would be a shame if something happened to it." "That ship is carrying civilians," Walker said firmly. "If you're truly an advanced civilization." A beam of blue energy shot from one of the Dominion's smaller ships. It hit the Rising Hope's engines, and the colony ship went dark, drifting helplessly in space. "Don't worry, we didn't destroy it," Rax laughed. "Just disabled its primitive propulsion system. Now, watch as we demonstrate true power." 3 Dominion ships moved into position around the helpless colony ship. Their blue hulls pulsed with energy. Walker pressed a hidden button under his command console. Throughout Earth's defense network, ships and stations went to silent alert. He had expected something like this. The Dominion's arrogance made them predictable. "We can disable every ship in your little fleet just as easily," Rax continued. "None of your weapons can penetrate our shields. None of your ships can outrun us. None of your—" A new alert flashed on Walker's screen. He allowed himself a small smile. "High Commander, you might want to look behind your ships." "What nonsense are you?" Rax started, then stopped as one of his officers whispered something to him. His blue face turned slightly pale. 6 Earth rescue ships had appeared near the Rising Hope, but these weren't ordinary rescue vessels. Hidden beneath their civilian markings were the newest weapons humanity had developed. "Interesting design choice," Walker said calmly. "Putting all your shield generators in the same section of your ships. Very efficient, very advanced, very vulnerable." Rax's expression changed from confusion to shock as he realized what was happening. The rescue ships had positioned themselves at specific angles around the 3 Dominion vessels. "You wouldn't dare," Rax snarled. "Your weapons are useless against—" Walker gave the signal. Each rescue ship fired a single shot, not energy weapons or missiles, but simple tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed. The Dominion's shields flared brilliantly as they tried to stop the primitive projectiles. They failed. The rods hit their targets perfectly, creating cascading shield failures across all 3 Dominion ships. Their beautiful blue hulls, now exposed, crumpled like paper where the fragments struck them. "Impossible," Rax shouted. "Those were just simple kinetic weapons. We are the Dominion. We are humanity." Walker cut him off. "And we just proved we don't need your protection." He leaned forward, his voice hard. "Now you have exactly 10 seconds to power down your weapons and release our colony ship, or you'll see what else these primitive humans can do." The command center was silent as Rax stared in disbelief. His ships, previously thought invincible, had been crippled by technology he had dismissed as primitive. "This is your last warning," Walker said quietly. "Next time, we won't aim for your shield generators." The Dominion ships quickly backed away from the Rising Hope. As Earth's rescue ships moved in to help the colonists, Walker could see the fury and fear mixing on Rax's face. The breaking point had been reached. War was coming, but humanity was ready. The Dominion had wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, They were about to learn one themselves. The massive underground factory complex beneath the Nevada desert echoed with the sound of construction. Hundreds of workers moved with urgent purpose as Project Thunderstrike entered its final phase. Captain Walker walked alongside General Roberts, watching as new weapons were installed on Earth's warships. "How many ships are ready?" Walker asked, ducking under a hanging power conduit. 30 so far," Roberts replied, checking his tablet. "Another 50 will be done by tomorrow." The Dominion's attack on our colony ship actually helped us, gave us perfect scan data of their shield frequencies. They stopped at an observation window overlooking the main testing chamber. Below, engineers were setting up their latest weapon test. A captured piece of Dominion hull material floated in a containment field, protected by a miniature version of their shield technology. Dr. Miller waved them down to the test floor. "Captain, General, you'll want to see this up close." She stood next to what looked like a standard particle accelerator, but with significant modifications. "We've cracked their weakness." "Show us," General Roberts said. Dr. Miller typed commands into her console. "The Dominion's shields are incredibly advanced, but they have a fundamental flaw. They're designed to handle single, powerful impacts." She pointed to the test shield, glowing blue just like the real ones. "But what happens when we hit them with millions of tiny impacts in exactly the right pattern?" She activated the weapon. A stream of accelerated particles, too small to see individually, shot toward the shield. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then patterns began appearing in the energy field, waves and ripples that grew stronger by the second. "Their shields work by absorbing and redirecting energy," Dr. Miller explained, "increasing the power. But they can only redirect it in certain ways. Hit them with the right frequency of impacts." The shield suddenly collapsed, and the particles shredded through the Dominion hull material like it was paper. "Beautiful," Walker said quietly. "How many shots can each ship carry?" "That's the best part," Dr. Miller grinned. "The particles are just hydrogen, the most common element in space. Our ships can literally scoop up fuel for these weapons from the solar wind. We'll never run out of ammunition." They walked to another section of the facility, where rows of Earth's ships were being fitted with the new weapons. Their hulls might look rough and primitive compared to the Dominion's sleek vessels, but now they held a deadly secret. "We've added other surprises too," Roberts said, pointing to new modifications. "Backup systems, redundant power supplies, manual overrides. Everything they think is too primitive to be useful. When their fancy electronic warfare tries to shut us down, we'll keep fighting anyway," Walker finished, "because sometimes the old ways work best." A young engineer ran up to them, holding a data tablet. "Captain, General, we just intercepted Dominion communications. They're gathering a massive fleet. Looks like they're done playing around." Walker nodded. They had expected this. The Dominion couldn't allow their reputation to be damaged by a primitive species. "How long until they arrive?" 3 days at their current speed." "Good." Walker looked at the rows of Earth ships being upgraded. "That gives us time to finish our preparations. They'll come in overconfident, expecting to find the same easy targets they mocked before." Dr. Miller's eyes gleamed. "Instead, they'll find ships that can tear through their shields like tissue paper. And once the shields are down, their pretty blue hulls won't last 10 seconds against our primitive weapons," Roberts finished. Walker walked to the main viewport, looking up at the stars barely visible through the armored glass. Somewhere up there, the Dominion fleet was approaching, their crews probably laughing about how easily they would crush these primitive humans. "Send word to all ship commanders," he ordered. "Operation Thunderstrike begins in 3 days. Let's show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." The complex hummed with renewed energy as the message spread. Humanity had been pushed, mocked, and attacked. Now it was time to push back. The Dominion thought they had seen everything humanity could do. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The space around Jupiter glowed with the blue light of 300 Dominion warships emerging from faster-than-light travel. Their formation was perfect, A wall of seemingly invincible ships ready to teach humanity its final lesson. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Thunder, hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon with 50 other human vessels. He watched the enemy fleet on his tactical display, noting their overconfident formation. "Status report," he ordered quietly. "Particle accelerators charged on all ships," his weapons officer replied. "Backup systems ready. Manual controls standing by." The radio crackled with High Commander Rax's voice, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Attention primitive humans, your pathetic attack on our ships will not go unpunished. Surrender now, and we may spare some of your cities." Walker smiled slightly. "Send response. Come and get us." The Dominion fleet moved forward majestically, their shields creating a beautiful light show against the darkness of space. They didn't bother with evasive maneuvers. Why should they? Their shields had never failed before. "Enemy ships entering optimal range," the tactical officer reported. "They haven't detected us yet. Their scanners are focused on Earth." Walker took a deep breath. Everything depended on this first strike. "Send to all ships. Execute Operation Thunderstrike. Pattern Alpha." Earth's fleet rose from behind Jupiter's moon like a swarm of angry hornets. Before the Dominion ships could react, 50 particle accelerators fired simultaneously. Streams of accelerated hydrogen particles, precisely calibrated to the Dominion shield's weakness, struck the enemy formation. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The space around Jupiter lit up brighter than a solar flare. Dominion shields flickered, rippled, and began to fail. Their perfect formation broke apart as ships tried to dodge the unexpected attack. "Their shields are down," the tactical officer shouted. 30. No, 40 ships exposed. "Launch kinetic strikes," Walker ordered. "Target their hull weak points." Rail guns on the human ships fired in sequence, launching tungsten rods at near light speed. The Dominion's beautiful blue hulls, designed for elegance rather than durability, crumpled under the impacts. Ships began exploding, their crews never having expected to fight without their precious shields. "Sir, they're trying to activate their electronic warfare systems." Walker nodded. This was exactly what they had prepared for. "Switch to manual controls. All ships, continue the attack." The Dominion's electronic attacks, designed to disable advanced computer systems, had no effect on the backup manual controls. Human ships kept firing, their primitive backup systems proving to be their greatest strength. High Commander Rax's voice came over the comm again, but this time it shook with rage and fear. "This is impossible. You're using primitive particle physics. Your weapons are too simple to." "Sometimes simple works best," Walker replied calmly. "All ships, execute pattern beta." The Earth fleet split into smaller groups, attacking from multiple angles. More particle beams struck the Dominion ships, followed by waves of kinetic projectiles. Ships that had once been the pride of the Dominion fleet were now breaking apart, their crews learning too late that beautiful shields meant nothing without strong armor beneath. "Enemy fleet is retreating," Tactical reported. "They've lost over 100 ships. No, make that 120. Walker watched as the mighty Dominion fleet, which had arrived so confidently, fled in panic. Their perfect formation was shattered, their invincible shields proven useless, their arrogance turned to terror. "Send to all ships," he ordered. "Well done. But remember, this was just the first battle. They'll be back, and next time they won't underestimate us." The Earth fleet regrouped, beginning recovery operations for damaged ships. As Walker looked at the debris field that had once been Dominion warships, he felt no joy in the victory, only determination. The real war was just beginning. But humanity had proven something important today. Against all the Dominion's advanced technology, humanity's primitive solutions had prevailed. Sometimes the simplest weapons were the most effective, and sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The war room beneath Earth's Defense Command was covered with holographic displays, showing the positions of both human and Dominion fleets. Captain Walker studied the tactical map as reports came in from across the solar system. Another Dominion fleet retreating from Saturn's rings, his intelligence officer reported. They lost 15 ships trying to pursue our forces through the debris field. Walker nodded. After their defeat at Jupiter, the Dominion had returned with new tactics. They no longer flew in perfect formations, and their ships now tried to dodge incoming fire. But they still couldn't solve their biggest problem, their fundamental weakness against humanity's weapons. "Sir," a communication officer called out, "we've intercepted transmissions from the Dominion home fleet. You need to hear this." The room's speakers crackled with alien voices speaking in their own language. The computer translated. "Shields failing against their primitive weapons. Impossible to maintain protection. Heavy casualties. Request immediate reinforcement." Dr. Miller burst into the war room, holding her data tablet. "Captain, look at these scans from our latest battle." Her eyes were bright with excitement. "They tried to modify their shields, doubled the power, added new frequencies. But they still can't stop our particle streams." Walker finished, looking at the data. "They don't understand the basic physics well enough to fix the flaw." "Exactly." Dr. Miller pointed to more readings. "They've been relying on their shield technology for so long, they've forgotten the fundamental principles behind it. They can't adapt because they don't understand how it really works anymore." A new alert flashed on the main screen. A massive Dominion fleet had just appeared near Mars, bigger than any they'd seen before. But Walker noticed something different about these ships. "They've added armor plating," he said, zooming in on the images. "Trying to copy our design philosophy." General Roberts, who had just entered the room, laughed without humor. "Too little, too late. That extra weight makes their ships slower, less maneuverable. And the armor's not properly integrated. It's just bolted on as an afterthought." "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the Mars Defense Fleet is engaging the enemy. They report the Dominion ships are much easier to hit now. The added armor is actually making our job easier." They watched as the battle unfolded. The Dominion ships, weighed down by their hasty armor additions, couldn't dodge effectively. Earth's fleet executed perfect attack runs, their particle beams collapsing shields while kinetic strikes tore through the poorly designed armor. Another transmission intercepted. The comm officer reported. "Playing now." High Commander Rax's voice filled the room, sounding nothing like the arrogant alien who had once mocked Earth's ships. Fall back to Rally Point Delta. These primitives, they're not primitives at all. They're ships. They're built for war, for survival. While we made our ships pretty, they made theirs strong. While we forgot the old ways, they mastered them. Retreat, full retreat." Walker watched as the mighty Dominion fleet turned and fled, leaving their damaged ships behind. Earth vessels moved in to capture the crippled alien ships, adding to their growing collection of Dominion technology to study. "They're running scared now," General Roberts said quietly. "All across the system, their fleets are pulling back. They never expected a long war. Their ships can't handle extended combat like ours can. Because we built our ships to survive." Walker added, "Every valve, every wire, every plate of armor. We put it there because we had to. Because space is harsh and survival isn't about looking advanced. It's about being tough enough to take whatever the universe throws at you." The tactical display updated, showing more Dominion fleets retreating from the solar system. The aliens who had once laughed at humanity's primitive ships were now fleeing from them in terror. The tables had turned completely. Now it was humanity's turn to push into Dominion space. But unlike their enemies, they wouldn't do it with arrogance. They would do it with the same careful planning and practical engineering that had brought them this far. The war wasn't over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had proven itself among the stars. The grand meeting hall of the Dominion's capital world looked very different from the last time humans had seen it in transmissions. The once proud banners were lowered, and the gleaming blue walls had lost their shine. Captain Walker stood with Earth's delegation, watching as High Commander Rax approached the peace table. The alien leader who had once mocked humanity's ships now walked with his head bowed. His ornate uniform was gone, replaced by a simple diplomatic dress. Behind him, the remaining Dominion leaders looked equally humbled. "We are prepared to accept Earth's terms," Rax said quietly, his voice lacking its former arrogance. "Our fleet commanders have agreed. The war is over." Walker nodded, opening the document that would end the 6-month conflict. The terms are simple. First, the Dominion acknowledges Earth and all human colonies as fully independent. Second, you will share your shield technology with us, and we will share our hull design principles with you. Rax looked up in surprise. "You would share your technology with us? After what we did?" "The goal isn't to humiliate you," Walker replied. "It's to make sure this never happens again. Both our peoples can learn from each other." Dr. Miller stepped forward, holding up a technical tablet. "Your shield technology is remarkable. Yes, it had a weakness, but that doesn't make it less impressive. Combined with our focus on physical durability, we could build ships that are both strong and well protected." The Dominion's chief scientist, who had been silent until now, moved closer to look at the designs. "Your backup systems, the manual controls, so simple, yet so effective. We had forgotten that sometimes the basic solution is the best one." As the scientists from both sides began talking, Walker saw hope returning to some of the alien faces. They had expected to be treated as they had once treated others, with mockery and contempt. Instead, they were being offered a chance to learn and grow. "There is one more term," Walker added, his voice firm but not unkind. "The Dominion must abandon its policy of judging other civilizations by their technological advancement. Different paths of development are not inferior paths." Rax signed the peace treaty with a steady hand. As the document was officially recorded, Walker thought back to that first meeting, when the Dominion had laughed at Earth's ships. How quickly things had changed. Later, walking through the Dominion shipyards with Dr. Miller, Walker saw human and alien engineers working together. They were building a new kind of ship, one that combined the best of both civilizations' technology. "Look at that design," Dr. Miller said, pointing to a holographic blueprint. "Dominion energy shields backed by Earth-style armor. Advanced alien computers with our manual backup systems. It's beautiful. Not because it looks pretty," Walker added, "but because it works." A young Dominion engineer approached them, holding something in his hands. It was a piece of metal, half gleaming blue alien alloy, half sturdy human steel, perfectly fused together. "We're calling it Unity Alloy," the engineer said proudly. "Strong as Earth steel, light as our metal. We never thought to combine them before. We were too proud to consider that. Well, that sometimes the old ways and the new ways are better together," Walker finished for him. As they left the shipyard, Walker looked up at the alien sky. The stars looked different from here, but they held the same promise they always had. Humanity had proven itself among those stars, not through arrogance or mockery, but through determination and adaptability. "You know what the funny thing is?" Dr. Miller said as they walked. "If they hadn't mocked our ships, if they hadn't been so arrogant, we might never have discovered their weakness. Their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating our technology. It was underestimating humanity itself," Walker concluded. "Let's hope that's a lesson no one else needs to learn the hard way." Above them, a new ship took off from the yard, its hull a perfect blend of human and Dominion design. It rose into the sky, carrying with it the promise of a future where advancement wasn't measured by arrogance, but by wisdom. The stars waited, and this time, humanity and the Dominion would explore them together.